I used to think death would come gently, like a quiet afternoon nap in October, but it didn't. It came like a thunderous slap, like a film suddenly played in reverse, like someone hitting the pause button on a life that had been moving too fast. A screeching sound, blinding headlights, then the roar of metal tearing through the night. My body was flung, everything spun, and then silence. No sound, no sensation, no pain, no heartbeat. Just one strange realization. I was still there. I saw myself, not in a mirror, not in a memory. I truly saw myself, from above, as if I were an outsider watching. My body lay motionless, blood running down my forehead, and I, whatever part of me that was, floated in that invisible space. Had I died? The question echoed, but no answer came. And strangely, I wasn't afraid. I saw everything with perfect clarity. The face of the man running toward me, the flickering headlights dancing on the wet pavement, the sound of sirens echoing in the distance like they were coming through a fog. I could see but not touch, hear but not control, exist but not belong. For the first time in my life, I realized, when the body dies, there is a part of us that doesn't, a part that remains, sharper and more alive than ever. But how do you explain the unexplainable? If you've ever felt like this world isn't quite real, if there's ever been a moment when something inside you whispered, "Who am I? Am I truly living, or just repeating a script someone else programmed?" then the next part might send chills down your spine. Because that's when I began to see beyond the curtain we call reality, and it looked nothing like what I had once believed. I never thought of myself as a good person, but I didn't see myself as a bad one either. I was just lost, like my soul had drifted off the main path early on and kept drifting, with no one ever reaching out to pull me back. My childhood was made of shouting, slaps, and constant reminders that I was a burden, a mistake, something no one ever wanted. I didn't grow up to live. I grew up to survive, one day at a time, without being swallowed by the belief that I didn't deserve love. At school, they called me the weird kid. At home, I was the useless one. And in the mirror, I didn't call myself anything at all. I learned not to need anyone, not to trust anyone, not to get attached, because eventually they'd all leave anyway. Drugs didn't come to me as an addiction. They came like a lullaby. They didn't make me happy, but at least they numbed the memory of pain. My life became a loop, waking up in the morning, fading out at night, collapsing into weekends in a cold apartment, surrounded by half-eaten noodles and the musty smell of surrender. I didn't hate life. I just didn't have any reason left to care about it. Up until that day. The day everything ended in a screech of metal and broken glass. Even then, I still didn't know who I was. Just a name on a form, a face that passed through other people's lives without being remembered. But when I died, I remembered everything. I remembered the look in my mother's eyes the day she left. I remembered the first time I cried alone in a bathroom. I remembered the only friend who ever placed a hand on my shoulder and said, "You matter more than you think." I had forgotten it all while living, but in death, I saw it clearly, like headlights cutting through darkness just before the crash. And that was when I began to understand. I had never really lived. I had been a pawn in a game I never agreed to play. And the next part was when that game revealed itself. No more hiding, no more illusions. I was about to see the system we mistake for freedom, a cage more sophisticated than any prison. Have you ever wondered if this world isn't quite what you've been taught to believe? If you have, then what's coming next may feel like the confirmation you've been waiting for. I didn't fall. I didn't fly either. It felt as though I was being drawn into another dimension, one without space, without sound, without gravity. Only the sensation of shedding a heavy garment I'd worn my whole life without even realizing it. Everything became weightless, yet not empty. I saw light, not harsh or flickering, but warm. It didn't shine on me, it moved through me, as if I were that light. There were no words, no whispers, yet I understood not with my mind, but with something simultaneous and instantaneous. Every thought, or more precisely, every feeling, manifested as a vision. I saw countless threads stretching between people. Red, Black, white, gold, each thread representing a connection. A word spoken, a glance, resentment, love, judgment, forgiveness. I saw myself, too, once just another link in the chain, never realizing I'd been pulled by invisible hands. I saw children born as blank pages, then slowly etched by society. Be this, not that. Boys don't cry. Girls must behave. Grow up and succeed. Failure is shameful. Emotions are weakness. Questioning is wrong. Blind obedience is loyalty. I didn't just see society. I saw the system, a matrix of programmed beliefs. A matrix not built into circuits or machines, but into awareness itself. And the most terrifying part wasn't that it controlled you. It was that you believed you were free. I saw my old self flailing inside it, thinking I was choosing, thinking I was deciding, thinking I was rebelling. But everything I did stayed neatly within the lines of that invisible circle. I was a character in a game whose player never showed up. And you know what the cruelest irony was? The Matrix wasn't something built to imprison me. I had imprisoned myself. Every belief I swallowed without questioning, every fear I stored without facing, every role I played just to be accepted, each one was a line of code I inscribed onto my own soul. And now, for the first time, I could see them all. Nothing was hidden. Nothing could be denied. I stood naked in a space where there was no darkness, because everything was illuminated. But there was still one thing I hadn't yet seen, something I wasn't ready to face. Because there's something more real than the Matrix, something that didn't just show me where I had been wrong, it pierced me to the core, what I had done to others. It was time to face it. I couldn't run. I couldn't explain it away. There was nowhere left to hide. I once thought I was a rebel. I thought I was different. I thought I had broken free from the system. But in that space, where words, time, and excuses no longer existed, I saw clearly. Everything I had ever done was just a reaction. I hadn't lived. I had only reacted to life's punches. I hadn't chosen. I had fled. I hadn't been myself. I was a collage of expectations, wounds, disappointments, and the words people spoke to me that I never forgot. I had been programmed, not by machines, but by my father's gaze, my mother's silence, the grades on my report card, the commercial I saw when I was 6, the insult I heard at 13, the indifference of the first person I loved. I lived in a maze where every turn was a false choice. I thought I was escaping, but I was only finding new doors that led back to the same fear. And when I thought I had broken out, through drugs, through rebellion, it turned out I had only changed rooms. No one is truly free if they don't know why they do what they do. No one is truly awake if their mind is filled with borrowed definitions. I used to believe I controlled my destiny, but I never asked, who wrote that destiny? I saw a generation walking the streets, believing they were awake, but their eyes were hollow. They smiled not from joy, cried not from pain. They repeated phrases, loved what they were told to love, and hated who they were told to hate. And I, before I died, was one of them. No ropes bound me, yet I was still bound. No handcuffs, yet I bowed my head. No walls, yet I was imprisoned. The Matrix isn't something out there. It is every time you whisper, "I'm not enough." Every moment you stay silent when your heart wants to speak. Every choice you make is out of fear of losing someone's love. When I realized all this, I felt a knot rise in my throat. But the light remained unjudging, unhurried, simply waiting for me to open my eyes a little more. And then I felt a deeper call, a movement, not in the place I was in, but inside me. As if I were being led to a place no one wants to enter, yet everyone must pass through. A place where you don't just see the world, but see yourself. Because no matter how vast the Matrix is, it's only a curtain. And behind that curtain lies the undeniable truth. What you've done. What you've made others feel. The moments you looked away when you should have reached out. And now, I was about to enter that place. No illusions, no words, only truth. Raw, unforgiving. There would be no turning back. Can you bear to see yourself through the eyes of another? I couldn't, but I was about to. I didn't walk, yet I felt myself moving toward the light. Not a blinding, harsh light, but a presence that slowly seeped through every layer of my soul, peeling me open, memory by memory, wound by wound. And then it began. No screen, no sound, but I saw my entire life play out like a reel of film set on automatic. Except this time, I didn't just see my actions, I felt what others had felt because of them. As if I had become them in that moment. When I lashed out at my mother for not understanding me, I felt the deep, breathless sorrow she swallowed in silence. When I hung up on my ex without a word, I experienced the familiar sting of abandonment she had carried for years. When I passed by a homeless man and recoiled with disgust, I felt the wordless shame of a soul still trying to hold on to a scrap of dignity. No one scolded me, but I felt everything, not through my ears or eyes, but through the deepest chambers of my heart. Every cold glance I ever gave became a silent blade. Every cruel word I threw out carelessly became a shard embedded in someone else, never noticed until now. And then came the moments I had forgotten, the soft touch of a hand I gave to a classmate who was being bullied. A quiet, "Are you okay?" whispered during a time when I was hurting too. These moments returned like sparks, tiny, fragile, but they burned with purpose, lighting up souls I thought I had barely touched. I saw that the things I once thought were meaningless had been lifelines, quiet, invisible lifelines in someone else's life. And suddenly, I understood. Every action we take, every thought we think, is energy. And energy doesn't disappear. It moves, it lingers, it touches other souls, and eventually it comes back to us. I wasn't being judged because I was the one judging myself, far more deeply than anyone else ever could. No one condemned me, but nothing was hidden. Everything surfaced, honest and whole and utterly unavoidable. And the most painful part wasn't what I had done. It was what I hadn't done. The apology I never said, the hug I never gave. The words of encouragement I withheld because I felt awkward. The eyes I avoided because I was afraid of being seen and hurt first. I saw it all, and I was no longer just myself. I was everyone I had ever crossed paths with. I was the pain I had ignored. I was the light I once turned away. And in that rawness, I heard a whisper so soft it felt like it came from inside me. "Are you ready?" Ready for what? I didn't know. But I felt a choice approaching, a turning point between staying and returning. But if I chose to go back, was I worthy of starting over? That was a question I couldn't answer alone. And the next part of my journey, that's when the answer came. Not in words, but in the deepest truth a soul can ever receive. I thought I would be chosen, that a hand would reach out and point to two paths, black or white, life or death, stay or go. But no. There was no one deciding for me, no voice in my head, no angels, no counsel, no divine command. Only silence, a silence unlike any I had ever known in my noisy, chaotic life. And in that silence, I felt the clearest truth of all. The choice was never outside of me. It had always been within. And in that moment, I looked back at the life I had lived in fear, in coldness, in escape. At the people I had hurt, whether I meant to or not. Missed opportunities, hugs I was too afraid to give, dreams I never dared to chase. But strangely, I didn't see a scale. There was no tallying, no scorekeeping. Just one question rising from the deepest part of my soul. If you go back, will you live differently this time? I had seen the light. I had understood the matrix. My eyes had been opened. But the real question was, would I have the courage to carry that truth back into a world still blind to it? I thought of my body, lying somewhere in a hospital, maybe broken, maybe close to flatlining. I thought of the coldness, the loneliness of earthly life, the barriers, the judgments, the hurt. I thought of the pain that would come with trying to live in a world where most people are still programmed, still asleep. And then I saw the eyes of a child sitting alone in a classroom, just like I once did. I thought of someone standing at the edge of despair, someone who might need only a word, a touch, a sign that they are not invisible. And I understood. I wasn't being forced to return. I wanted to. Not because I was worthy, but because I had seen the truth. And that truth couldn't be mine alone. I couldn't walk forward into the light while others were still wandering in the dark. And when I said, not in words, but in the deepest language of intention, I'm ready to go back, the light around me changed. It moved, it opened, it poured into me, flooding every cell of my soul. And then I fell, not into a void, but into my body, into pain, into the heartbeat, into the urgent beeping of machines. I hadn't opened my eyes yet, but I knew I had returned. No longer the same, no longer anyone else. I came back carrying a mission. But could I fulfill it? Was the world ready for the truth I now carried? The next part will show you how I lived after dying once. I opened my eyes. The cold white light of the hospital pierced through my eyelids, and for a moment I thought I was still on the other side. But then the sound of crying. The nurse was calling my name. The doctor's voice said, "We lost you for 1 hour and 13 minutes. All of it pulled me back. My body felt like a block of weight, every inch aching down to the bone. But inside me, something else was stirring. Like an ancient song, long silent, is finally being played again. I breathed. For the first time in my life, I breathed. Not to survive, but to feel. I looked at the ceiling. I looked at my frail hands. I looked at the nurse, someone I didn't even know, clutching my hand in sheer relief. And I wept. Not because of the pain, but because I knew I had just returned from death, carrying something deeper than life. I wasn't who I used to be. I started living slower, not out of laziness, but from awareness. I listened more carefully to what people said, because I now knew that a single sentence could save a soul. I looked deeper into people's eyes, because I understood some glances were only because they've never been softened by love. I called my mother. Though she'd been gone for years, I apologized out loud in the stillness of my room. I went to the cemetery, placed my hand on my father's grave, and whispered, "Now I understand." I walked down the street and saw a homeless man, and for the first time, I didn't see a pitiful figure. I saw a soul. I didn't share my experience with everyone. I knew not everyone was ready. But I lived as if I were the living proof of a truth far bigger than any doctrine. We are not just bodies, not just roles, not just mistakes or achievements. We are learning how to walk through the dark without going dim. And I, the one who once died, chose to return, not to be forgiven, but to give the love I once most desperately craved. Someone once asked me, "If you saw the light, why didn't you stay there?" I smiled. Because if all the light retreats to one place, who will illuminate the rest of the world? I don't need anyone to believe me now. I only hope you remember this. If there's ever a moment in your life when the world feels meaningless, when you feel like you're drifting, when the emptiness inside you becomes unbearable, know that it's not the end. It's an invitation, an awakening. And maybe, just maybe, in the moment you feel most lost, you'll begin to see the path. Because death isn't when your heart stops beating. It's when you stop living truthfully. And if I, a man who completely lost his way, can return from death and begin living authentically, then so can you. Drugs weren't just substances I used. They were the closest thing to an embrace I'd ever known, even if warped. They were my shelter when I couldn't bear to face myself. So for me, recovery wasn't just about quitting. It was about facing myself in the rawest, most unguarded form. In the early days of coming back, my body trembled as if my skin was being peeled away. Every cell screamed for the thing that once numbed it. But this time, I didn't reach for a pill. I sat with it. I listened to the trembling. I let it pass. I didn't suppress it. I didn't fight it. Every craving was a wave. I didn't try to block the wave. I learned how to let it move through me without dragging me under. I started to write, scribbles at first, messy and jumbled, but every word was a step forward. I took walks every morning, even when my head felt like it was splitting open. I stood in front of the mirror every day and looked into my own eyes, the ones I'd avoided for years. I recorded every tiny victory, a day without cravings, a night of full sleep, a meal eaten without feeling hollow. And I taped them to the wall like trophies, not for anyone else, just to remind myself I'm coming back to life, bit by bit. I reached out to people I had once avoided. I apologized, not to be forgiven, but to free myself from the role of the victim. I said, I hurt you because I never knew how to love anyone, not even myself. Some people walked away. Some forgave me. But the most important part was, I said it. And I no longer hid behind the mask of being tough. Recovery isn't just about quitting a habit. It's about relearning how to be present, how to face pain without using something to escape it. And on a rainy afternoon, I sat in my old room, looking out the window, listening to the raindrops tapping against the glass, and I felt nothing but peace. No cravings, no anxiety, no fear. Just a deep, steady presence. And in that moment, I knew I had won. Not against addiction, but against the version of myself who once believed he didn't deserve to live. These days, I don't count how many days I've been clean. I count how many times I've truly shown up for myself, for others, for life. And if you've ever believed you couldn't break free, if you've ever felt your wounds ran too deep, that it was too late to turn around, please know, it's never too late when you choose to live truthfully. You don't have to die to be reborn. Sometimes all it takes is one moment of courage. And maybe, for you, that moment is now. I've shared my story not because I'm special, not because I need you to believe me, but because I know that somewhere out there, someone like you has gone through something you can't quite explain. A dream that felt too real, a brush with death that lit up everything, a strange intuition, a moment that felt like someone touched your soul and whispered, "You're not alone." Maybe you've never told anyone, afraid they'd say you imagined it. Maybe you wrote it down, then erased it. Maybe you've kept it locked inside your heart for years. But I believe your story exists for a reason. And here, there are people ready to listen, without judgment, without skepticism, just listening with respect and open hearts. Leave your story below this video, whether it was a fleeting moment or a lifelong journey, whether you've made sense of it or still feel confused, whether it was full of light or covered in shadow, it deserves to be seen. Because when one person dares to speak their deepest truth, they don't just heal themselves, they awaken thousands of others. So write, share, offer the world your piece of the puzzle. Because sometimes the story you think sounds crazy is exactly the one someone else has been waiting for.